it starts.
Go, Al.
Hey, Al. Welcome to Traveling Molly's, everyone. It's me, Nina Corwin, and my wonderful co-host, Al DeGenova, coming to you virtually from virtually anywhere, along with a bunch of open micers and features that are from East Coast to West Coast. So Al, how are you doing?
So I'm doing fine. Hi, Nina. Even though it says under my face there, it says Eden, I'm on a different
Open
laptop
micers
than usual,
feature.
but I am truly Al DeGenova. And we've got a really great lineup of open micers for everyone out there tonight. And our features tonight. I don't want to introduce our features, Nina. You can say who it is.
Right. Well, so we are doing something special tonight. As many of you have heard me say ad nauseum, or had heard us say, we don't repeat features. Somehow in 25 some years, we have managed to not have features more than once. We've tried ways to bring them back, like openers, having openers but tonight, what we're going to do is have some regulars and people who've been involved with the reading for years who have books out in the not too distant past. And we're going to be featuring them. And that's going to be Patty McMillen. If you want to wave, you can wave. And then we're going to have our very own Al DeGenova. And
Yes, here I am.
wave too. And then Pam Miller, who's a Chicagoan who all of us Chicagoans know, I believe, and Brenda Cardenas, who is my good buddy, and just so happy to have you with us. Oh, and one other thing, Brenda, didn't you just judge the After Hours Mary Blinn Award? Yes, so that's kind of cool to have you all with us.
Yeah, and Brenda, you haven't met Caroline Wellman. Caroline is on our open mic list tonight, and she was the winner of the Mary Blinn contest. So you guys you can be virtually introduced.
All
Nina,
right.
will you start us out?
I will. Do you know what? I totally did not get that Donna Pucciani was in the open mic tonight. So hi there.
You're muted, Donna.
You know what? I think I sent her the wrong link because she wanted to listen, and I guess I sent the wrong link. Sorry.
I see.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Donna. So Donna is not in the open mic. Maybe we can send her the YouTube link.
Yeah, well.
In the meantime, we're going to do some of what we usually do every month, and that is start out with the hosts reading a poem, but because Al's one of the features tonight, I guess I'm the only one to read, and I'm going to read something called In Search of Law and Order, which Law and Order was my my shameful addiction for many, many years. And it occurred to me that we all have some sort of need to watch the bad guys get punished and interrogated and whatever. And that was the inspiration of this. Now comes the hour of undressing, when all disguises scrub away, leaving only soap and water innocence, glow of late night cable reruns. After the daily buffeting of hundreds of corruptions and injustices, when loose ends dangle and hands wring each other at the end of unoccupied wrists, where else to find the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle justice, so neatly assembled courtroom crusaders and evil empires easy to take aim at? How else to get tuned in so picture perfectly protected as I curl up in the refuge of my sofa with a cup of spearmint tea? On any ordinary night, the gripping rape and murder lineup, guest appearances by primetime felons, sympathetic victims cut from any cloth, and at the scene, a stretch of black and yellow tape proclaims police line, do not cross. The weathered homicide detective, trench coat clad, grumbles he's sorry for my loss, and I take comfort. Yes, comfort in the stakeouts and the knife-edged questions, the security of handcuffs and gritty detentions, predictable suspects caught naked in their slipshod lies. And to these last I say, take that. Take that, you corner office culprits pocketing the pensions of loyal employees. Take that, you deadbeat dads, you two-faced officials and countless accomplices. Take that, you terrorist fathers whose children cower on the bathroom tile. And the lovers, yes, the lovers, the predatory lovers that always get away. To all of them that populate the unrepenting air, I say out loud, with all the rush and bluster of a high-speed chase, you won't get away with it this time. For now comes the hour of witnesses and evidence trotted out before the Solomon box of mostly impassive faces that, after some deliberation, hand me down their reassuring verdict before I flip the switch and go to sleep. And in such hours, I take my restitution twice removed, hard-boiled with overbite corrected, satisfied to watch the trials and sentences of strangers because my own life doesn't make a very good story. Not enough action. The heroes not especially heroic. All that interior monologue that doesn't play well to the camera. The jury still deliberating when the day is over. Thank you. So yeah, we don't always get the justice we're looking for, but that's a topic for another day and another day and another day. For now, I am going to start by introducing the first of our open mic readers, Patrick Reardon. Patrick.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here. I've got two poems here that were just accepted at Commonweal magazine, which was, I was really pleased with that. First one has to do with, it's kind of about a whistleblower or a prophet or someone who is trying to tell society it's going in the wrong direction. It's called Duped. Lucy Richardson was deceived by the voices, overpowered by the visions, covered over. She let herself be duped. She embraced her deception, locked it in her heart with 1,000 keys. Ridiculed the livelong day, mocked by every mouth. She shouted, warned violence, destruction, thunder, and fire. Taunted by passers-by, a woman of sorrow, acquainted with infirmity. Insult and reproach were her daily bread. Her good they made evil, her evil good. She determined to warn no more. No more spew grim prophecies, no more stand sentinel at the gates, abjuring the comfortably recalcitrant. What will be, will be. But fire was in her heart, electricity in her skeleton. She ached to lock it away. She could not. And the other poem is, it's from a series of poems I've done where there are three characters. It's myself, a guy I play basketball with who I call Brother Elbow, who I don't like very much, and who's kind of me also. And then the little nun called Therese of Lisieux. She was this French nun, very small woman who just never was out in public, but because stories of her life came out, she became a saint and all this stuff. So it's called In Her Pain. We sit with Trump enthusiasts, Elbow, Sister, and I. Oh, Elbow, calm down. Sister knows they're hard shelling and underneath darkness, deep and deeper. In that gloom, they have been spewed with bile, fountained by vomit, betrayed by physics and chemistry. They have tribal protection, struck out as they have been struck, spittled. We sit at their table, our table, breathe the bitter air, acrid touch. Look, on Clark Street, middle-aged boys walk hand in hand, dating by sidewalk, having fought off the bile. Little sister fought off the venom voices, her own. Under MAGA hat, the woman coaches Little League well. She passengers the lost, cold, thin man, thin coat, outside the church in snow after midnight mass, drives him where he needs to be. In her pain, she reaches for illogic when logic has betrayed. In calm moments, she sings, not out of tune, as sweet as the music of any other saint or sinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Very nice. Glad to have you here. Let's see, who should we call up next? Robbie Nestor, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yep. Didn't get my email last time. It was a blip. So I have two ekphrastic poems today about creatures. Oh wait, one is ekphrastic, the other isn't. Sorry, but they're both about creatures. I'll start with the leafhopper. The leafhopper. In my city neighborhood, most things are the color of concrete or the dull tar black of the street. Red brick row homes, strictly functional. No trees grew on our block. Too messy, my mother said. Too much trouble to maintain. But she allowed my father, with his farmer's hands, a tiny patch of lawn where he could plant. And I could study whatever lived there, cabbage whites or skippers, ants and cell bugs, bees, night crawlers like thin lengths of copper wire, and the occasional leafhopper, a bit of the tropics, with its aqua and red body, angular as a sail, yellow legs and belly, face like an African mask. It perched on a rose leaf, anomalous as a bird of paradise. Then I collected him. I was sure it was a he, bright as a male bird, dropped him with some leaves into an empty Hellman's jar with a punctured lid, and set off to the library. I discovered that his colors were a warning. He was a parasite, sucking the sap out of the garden's plants, spreading disease. He even did it to the trees on other blocks. It was the first time, but not the last, I learned to question beauty, to ask why something so distinctive took this form, and to distrust it, so that, drawn by the rose, I may not grasp the thorn. And then the other, I'm going to try to share my screen. That calcified flamingo. It's an article in Smithsonian that's really interesting. And the poem is about it. It's about this calcified flamingo image by Nick Brandt. Flamingo in Lake Natron, northern Tanzania, after a photograph by Nick Brandt. From above, the lake seems a kind of paradise, the breeding ground of many migratory birds. Already, flocks dot the shore, yet the water teems with hundreds of fallen birds looking for a place to stretch and preen. Those lured by the mirror of the lake's red water, so bright it's visible from space, will die in this runoff from the volcano, Old Doña Lengai. Their feathers harden into clumps of brittle string, flattened winter weeds. Their wings lie heavy, will never feel the touch of air again. The hollow reeds that were their legs stuck fast in silt, the boiling water thick as blood, a bitter brew that turned them all to salt. So, okay. And that one's going to be in the next issue of McQueen's Quinterly, and the first one in sometime in One Art. Well, that picture is seriously creepy. He has a whole book of them.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of critters that fall into that lake.
Well, so how about if we next have Susanna Lang read for us. It's always good to hear you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I live in the south of France 4 months a year, and both of these are new poems from the spring when we were there. The first is spoken to the Rhone River in Avignon. The south of France has come out of a multi-year drought. I don't know how long the reprieve is going to last, but it was the first time we had seen water in some of the rivers. The Rhone never went dry, but it was definitely higher than it had been. Old river god, old dragon, fat with spring rains after a dry winter, you have forgotten the meager times, though they are sure to return. For now, you bask brown-backed in the afternoon sun, hills rising on either side, terraced with churches and houses, vines set out in rows, their first bright leaves. You've always had it in for us, interlopers who tried to harness you, make you serve our needs. You tore down the bridge where we danced tout en rond. You sparkled your water like jewels so those with more greed than sense would come near enough for you to drag them down to your bed. No more. This spring you could only slow our morning commute. Not mellowed, just tired. Not up to breaking a bridge or painting a semblance of treasure. In a month or so, you'll run our barges aground, interrupt our shipping. You'll have shrunk by then, lost your depth and flow, but not your judgment of what we have done to your valley. And who can say you are wrong? Thank you. And the other one I have is from an archaeological site in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, where you've got Gaulish houses and Greek houses and Roman houses and temples and so forth and so on, all in the same area. And in the spring, it's surrounded by hills and redbuds that bloom this deep magenta in April. This is called Among Themselves, set in Glanum. These walls have forgotten their wars, and those who died in their arms or doorways, now empty of doors. And having forgotten, they are serene. There are still wars, of course, the same wars in other places. Here, stone lies on stone in the sun, and redbuds are beginning to drop their petals on the paths between the baths and temples. The vacant rooms once loud with the comings and goings of Gauls or Greeks or Romans. In the silence, I hear the stones murmur among themselves, hear their voices, but not their words. They are not interested in what I think, only in each other, one stone lying in another's embrace. Thank you.
Very nice, Susanna. Thank you. Let's see. Tim Brown, how about, what do you got for us?
Oh, hi everyone. Okay, well, I want to read the first poem that I wrote in over 20 years. It dates back to 2016. From about 1996 to 2016, I never wrote any poems. I published 4 novels, however, very focused on fiction, but then I got back into the poetry and basically am semi-retired, if not fully retired from fiction writing. But anyway, this is called one of 2, Littoral. It was kind of based on a summer romance. On the beach we lie, perched on that spot that is neither water nor land, an uncertain zone, always shifting as the tide presses forward and the sand draws back. Offshore, to the west, the sun winds down. To the east, the moon ticks upward. Dusk turns to black, the shade that you wear, the color of darkness that you bear. I am a sun worshiper. You are a follower of the moon. During this fleeting time when light flees and the dark inflates, we stare into each other's fathomless eyes. Our legs briefly intertwine, then break. Thanks. This next poem, second of 2, is called Arm's Length. She was tall, with long legs and long arms. A long, shapely back she held straight as a yardstick. When you tried to get close to her, you confronted those long arms ending in hands that pushed your paws away. Your lips had to be the equivalent of a long jumper to get past her outstretched arm just to reach her cheek, let alone her lips. Yet she would reach across the table to feed you a pita corner topped with hummus or a small bit of cake. What accounts for this behavior? I asked the first time we saw one another. I had lost the drive to surmount the arm's length radius she enforced around herself. I was frustrated as a basketball defender who struggled to get his hand between dribbles to steal the ball. You avoid my touch, yet you will touch me, but never, ever in the good spots, I observed. I knew it was a mental game she played. There was a reason why she shunned touch. If my hand could get close, I would take a power drill to her skull in hopes the rationale leaked out. She was too protective of what was inside. My mind is in its own world, she answered. My skin is armor you cannot fully penetrate. I can tell you have sensitive fingertips that would dance across my body, but your arms are not long enough to reach beyond mine. Thanks, everyone.
All right then. Thanks, Tim. Good to see you again. And how about Mary Holly? So nice to see you.
Thank you, Nina. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to hearing the open mic and then the features. It's quite a wonderful night. I'm going to read a poem that I've been working on for a while. It's one of those, taken from the headlines, but it was, one of those weird headlines. So I don't know, happened to hear driving somewhere, it was like that a man somewhere in Michigan, I believe, had been arrested because he was running naked, except for his shoes. Well, actually, and one other thing, which is mentioned in the poem. But I just started thinking, like, well, why would a man be running naked and then, getting arrested? And so this actually turned into a sestina and kind of a reflection on life. So it's called Naked. A man was arrested for running naked, except for shoes, reflector tape, before dawn, crossing a highway, after everything, and at last. It was the only thing that made him feel alive, he told the cops. Raw air, his body skimming over the path like a deer startled from its grassy bed. At home, his wife burrowed deeper into bed. In her dreams, he was running, not naked, but oblivious, like the geese in the painting over the mantel, a flock taking wing at dawn. Her mother, in the final months of her life, worked on it feverishly, one last gift when they said she wouldn't last much longer. Crudely done, yellow globs for a bed of swamp marigolds. Yet the geese looked alive, dark bodies rising in relief against a naked sky like unreadable words. Then her mother went down into deeper dreams and crossed over, ended, in a hospital room with an old TV over the door, 2 plastic chairs. They watched her mother's last thoughts flicker under her eyelids, ripple down to her lips, now half smiling, now beaded with sweat. Her face, wrapped as an infant's, naked and closed, absorbed as if she were the most alive, dying, enthralled by something they couldn't see. Alive, the man repeated. The cops threw a blanket over his shoulders, radioed in, deadpan, "We got the naked guy." They drove him past fields where the last wisps of fog lingered. At home, his wife made the bed, showered, dressed, aware of a weight pressing down again, her flagging energy. "I'm just a little down," she told herself, "a little tired." How was it their lives had wound down to those 2 plastic chairs, her mother's bed, each of them alone in their thoughts, and when it was over, more alone still? He never told her about running naked. She never said she had nothing left. Yet perhaps that last painting was a dawning of something, enough to overcome this darkness. She thought of her mother, immersed in life to her last days. Even in that bed, there was hope, harsh, naked. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. I like that. Let's see. We're gonna split up the married couple. Everybody always calls you guys together. Today I'm gonna call Dale Going. What do you got for us?
Hi, Al. Hi, Nina. Hi, everybody. I've got a couple of poems. The first one was published in Landlocked magazine, issue 5/1, under an asterisk. Under an asterisk, she sat, Seshot, goddess of writing and measure, who is a lesser-known deity, although she invented writing, was mistress of the house of books, celestial libraries where scrolls of essential knowledge were assembled, potent spells preserved. Her symbols: leopard skin, tablet, stylus, star. Ma'at is her mother, whose first maternal work was the creation of everything, then the effort, endless, of preservation, lest her cosmic progeny descend again to chaos. Hence, the weighing of a human heart. Mother Ma'at, the feather on the scale. In various versions, Thoth is the father, lover, brother on a slab stela, the reckoner of time and writing, venerated as a wisdom god with whom Seshat shared far less recognized, though overlapping, functions. Acknowledge, she is the inventor of writing. He took it from her and taught it to reckless men. I mention this from a bitter well of mirth. She can see the future so well from the window in her cell. And the second poem was in the Tiger Moth Review, issue 12. That's a lovely echo poetry magazine coming out of Singapore. New. To willfully not remember the way things are, to make a new position, not limited to symbols of lack. For you, I will make this universal. Oh, I don't want to be too nuanced. What I want is to feel mycelial, our thready connective filaments, to feel that we're trees too. Thank you.
That just reminded me of a headline. I think it was New York Times about trees moving west. And that was interesting. I mean, the visuals were odd, to say the least. But anyway, moving on. Rusty Russell, we have not seen you in a while. It's always good to hear what you bring to us
Oh,
from Madison.
thank you. Yeah, Madison. That's Dovima and the Elephants, just in case you're wondering. It's a Richard Avedon photo. It has nothing to do with the poems I'm reading. Two very short ones. Snowbound, a love story. By the third day, we could not see the road. Night closed in at 4 o'clock, but she wasn't afraid. Splitting wood in the driveway, she did not look up at me looking down from the window. Snow was still falling, not falling so much as looking for something. That's the way it looked to me, while she swung her axe down through the grain so true the logs fell apart in a single stroke. One morning I awoke, and she wasn't beside me. She was curled on the carpet in front of the wood stove, and the fire she'd nurtured whispered to her, and she was whispering in her sleep. Nothing recognizable. I knelt to the floor, put my ear to her lips. It was not a language. I left her there in that country and went back to bed. I dreamed an apartment house at the shore. There was a wave. The ocean swelled around hills everyone thought they knew. At first, I thought I recognized a neighborhood where I grew up. Then it was all swept away. You know how dreams are. When I woke, I was alone. The fire was out. The stove was cold. Her tracks outside were nearly covered. They did not lead toward the road. This is very short. Thank you for flying. There will be 10 more minutes until the end of this world. Please check the area around you so you don't forget anything important. On behalf of the frog, the twilight, the rain, and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for joining us and noticing. That's really all there was to it. Wasn't it wonderful?
Thank you, Rusty. Good to see you. I'm going to take a minute to say hello to the people watching on YouTube. We've got a number of folks out there, so just want to say good evening. And one of my old students from the clearing is on there tonight, so it's nice to have friends all over the place. Next up.
Al, care to share some names?
I don't think it's anybody you would know, but her name is Ann Ivy. That's the only name that I have so far, but hi, Ann. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see, who's next? Caroline Wellman, who is, for those familiar with the Mary Blinn contest, which After Hours magazine sponsors every year, and this year our judge was Brenda Cardenas, who's going to be reading a little later, but our winner was Caroline Wellman. Caroline.
Hi. Thank you for having me. It's great to see y'all, and it's great to hear all the poems too. So this is the poem that won the prize. It's called Self-Portrait as Orca. I carry the weight of the virus that took my father. Virus is albatross, grief is stone, myself is Sisyphus climbing, unclimbing a cliff. I lost my father, I explain, as if he were a set of keys, something I might find if I pray to the right saint, or if I am just lucky. Taken, I say, as if I could pay ransom. I cannot let go, like Tahlequah, the mother orca, who carried her calf 17 days on her tour of mourning, begun just off the coast of Tenerife, with her child's pectoral fin in her mouth, as she used her breath to dive low, her head to bump and push its body when she dropped it from sheer fatigue, her journey unprecedented since it lasted more than a day, since she bore her sorrow 1,000 miles because her baby lived half an hour. What is beyond grief, a scientist mused? I don't even know. Who does, until they find themselves plunged in such bewildering waters? I have one more. This poem is called Cedar. A box from the gift shop, the outside varnished to a rich glow and topped with a postcard of the cave time carved into the massive hill, its dark door dwarfed by sun and shadow, dirt and stone. That summer the box could hold everything. The first gold to adorn ears newly pierced, and the others that followed until they became too many, moved to homes with painted roses, soft felt, and filigree doors, to melodies made with the key, leaving behind those whose mates might turn up one of these days, necklaces I'd never have the patience to untangle, tiny glass-blown animals, old screws, and my mother's watch. From the lifted lid, from the good redwood, whirled and striated, fine grain, cut straight and true and sanded smooth, what rose that summer is still there, that fragrant presence, a music all its own. Sister to the stubby hedges my grandfather tended so gently, and the trees I looked for but never found, running the wooded hills months after he was gone, still years from knowing how the spring rain scatters its secrets. Thanks, everybody. I look forward to hearing the rest of the poems.
Thanks, Carolyn. Good to hear you. So before I introduce our last open micer, I just want to give you a preview for next month's open mic features. As regulars will know, the reading takes place on the second Monday of every month. I don't know what that is for August, but our features for August are Cornelius Eady and Robin Messing, and hopefully many of you know that Cornelius Eady is the co-founder with Toy Derricat of Cave Canem, and he's also a musician who has a group and has recordings, and that's going to be we'll see what we get, but we've got some good stuff in store for you. And now we've got Mike Pewican. What do you got?
I had to turn off my mute. I want to say thanks to Traveling Mollies, because I know all four of these readers, and they're all great poets, and I'm so looking forward to this reading. The poem I'm going to read, I'm going to read one poem, and it was written 7 months ago, and you're going to be able to, you're going to see why. You're going to know that. It's called Night in Chicago. In the night, I will trudge 8 blocks in the snow to a troubled lake. In the night, I will wander among shoplifters and thugs who are shapeless and lost. In the night, I will illuminate the barracuda-faced men gentrifying Lawndale. In the night, I will slide my feet along errant alleyways, slick and serpentine. In the night, I will gather a soul assembly and converge on the Dan Ryan Expressway. In the night, I will scramble my array of vegetables and street smarts. In the night, I will assert my rights as the wind hangs ice on pizzerias and elms. In the night, I will burnish a reflection that is perishable and unafraid to drown.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Mike. It's good to see you. That ends our open mic, and what a great open mic it was. So thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to, we have 4 features tonight, and they are Brenda Cardenas and Pamela Miller, yours truly, and Patricia McMillen. I'm going to start off our features tonight with by introducing Patty.
However, before you do that, we do want to do our monthly commercial, which is to say we like to pay our features, and we know it's impossible to pay them what they're worth, and we know that we can't pass a hat to collect from you, but there are 4 features, and you can donate or you can contribute by clicking on the link that is in the chat that Al's dropped there, and it'll take you to a PayPal donation link for his journal after hours, but he then collects it and distributes it 4 ways. Well, usually 2. And so what that means is we're definitely not going to be able to give people what they're worth. However, you can buy their books, and we really, really hope that you will, particularly after getting a chance to hear what they've selected to share from them. And we'll also have the links to their books in the chat. All right, then, take it away, Al.
Okay, going back to where I was. Anyway, Patty McMillen has been a Molly's regular for many years, since when we were in the real world. So she's become a good friend. Glad to have her here tonight. She has a new book, and I was very privileged to read that early on and to offer a blurb for the book, which is kind of a humbling experience when you get asked to do that. So I'm going to read Patty's bio so that I don't forget anything. Patty was a student of Barry Selesky, Luis Alberto Urrea, and the late Maureen Seaton, among others. Patricia, Patty McMillen, is a Chicago musician, community activist, and investor. Oh, maybe I should ask you questions after this. An Illinois native, Patty briefly practiced commercial law with Chicago-based firm Mayer Brown, but retired early to devote her energies to writing, managing her family farming corporation and freelance public advocacy. Her first chapbook, Knife Lake Anthology, was published in 2006, and her first full-length collection, Running Wild, was published earlier this year. Patty is a graduate of the University of Illinois at Chicago, a program for writers, the University of Chicago Law School, and Brown University, and a proud member of Chicago's Temple Shalom. Everyone, welcome Patty McMillen.
Thank you so much, Al and Nina. I'm really honored to be back. And also humbled to follow the amazing open mic. So I hope it's not a disappointment. This is the book, except it's blurred, but it's called Running Wild. And it's in 4 parts. The first part is kind of memories of childhood. And I'm going to start with one of those poems. It's called Little Sister. Oh, and I just got a message that my internet is unstable. So Nina, wave or something if you can't hear, okay? Little Sister. When I think how close I came to losing you in the Monadnock building after my first eye doctor appointment, Mom and I both stunned to hear him say I needed glasses. Would I never dance Swan Lake? Both crying, waiting for the elevator, which, though classy, had no operator, was uncomprehending as a toaster or neuro-ophthalmologist. And when it came, how you hopped right on while we stood, watched those ornate glass and brass doors bang shut, 8-year-old you on one side with your pixie haircut, Mom and 13-year-old me on the other. Oh, then did I become a woman, then know what loss would be. And when that same lifetime, Mom and I still paralyzed on the 7th floor, the same doors clanged open again, revealing you untouched, unharmed, valiant in the elevator cab. Oh, then did we 3 keen. Oh, then did we three keen and tragic unison all the way out to Jackson Boulevard. I read a lot about my sisters, and they're still, thankfully, both friends and in my life. The next poem I had, it's a longer poem, but I cut it up into 3 parts for the book. So I'm just going to read the first part, which is in the childhood section of the book. It's called To My Period. I remember clearly the first time we met on an airplane in 1967. I was 15 on a trip with my mother. After we landed, I hid in the guest room of her friend's house, while Mom asked our hostess, who had a son my age, if she had an extra sanitary napkin and belt. After that, you went away for a few months, but you came back, and that was the end of childhood. You made yourself at home between my legs, bringing your strange smells and cravings, making me morose and poetic, sometimes even before lunch. You brought other baggage too, the swollen breasts, the not sleeping on my stomach, the not sleeping at all. There was the part about disappointment, the part about not being a mother again this time. You and your intractability, your mysteriousness stranger than Holy Communion. At times I understood why women became pagan and danced around bonfires. It was you, not the serpent, who made us into witches and men into inquisitors. Thank you, Ravi. After finishing college, Mother writes checks for the psychiatrist, then over meatloaf asks me what I said about her. Dr. H has the long head, sad eyes of a basset. His son's a pest I knew in grammar school. I don't feel like talking, but I tell him how I threw a cup of coffee at her wall. It flew crooked, hit the ceiling. You won't make my ball team, he jokes, trying to play, but I grimace, refuse. The truth is, I've read Phyllis Chesler. I'm convinced that if I said what I thought, they'd lock me away. As for Freud's dictum, to love and to work, what's to love about the date who grinds his heart-on into my spine, who finds my grief amusing? Freaked out, spiral-bound, I scrawl notes for poems, claw my way up until I'm ready for a retail gig. I'm fine, I say, cram notebooks into big white bags, leave them for the garbage truck. As my bitter adolescence. And this poem, I call it a fake translation, but I really wanted to read it because of Pam's mistranslations in her book, which I hope she'll read. This is After Bei Dao, a fake translation from the Chinese. A man offers me an umbrella at a bus stop and I accept. Later I tell this story at work and all the secretaries laugh because it isn't raining. In Hawaii, sea climbs a cliff. Women waiting in line outside public bathrooms or eating chocolate-dipped strawberries from sticks. Women stepping over puddles of spilled beer. In Chicago, a midnight swim. When lightning strikes a bird's nest, every young mother hears sirens. There are feathers on the ground, blood, bones in the air. The sky is very dark. In Jerusalem, a bullet-scarred doorway. In Paris, soft air across a girl's shoulders. When will he stop promising roses? Are there no other beautiful flowers? When will he tell me the truth? Guess I've kind of gotten into adulthood. And this is a poem that was in the Hallmark calendar in 2001. And it's about a divorce. It's called At the Front. So this is war. That explosion you heard was no landmine, only a thought balloon that hovered cloud-like until I pricked it, spitting punctuation, partial sentences, like shrapnel into the flesh of sister, father, husband. No, don't say she means well. As purple crocuses burst into bloom, he takes a furnished room downtown, leaves me the house. I resettle his things, bowling trophies, golf clubs, shotgun, in refugee camps under the basement stairs. Neighbors offer solace, but it's like they're talking to an image on their TV screens. Too late to refuel now, I say. We're going down. This next poem that I chose. No, I think I'm going to read Tightwire. Tightwire. Something's bugging him. Could it be me, straining to keep my voice level and warm as I guard the food pantry swap table? Wait till you get your bag, then anything you don't want, you'll swap. Up to 2 items, I warn. His eyes flash fire. Is it PTSD, raging delusion, non-prescription drugs? He wanders back and forth, watching. Did you see that, he says? That person there traded 4 cans of corn. When his bag comes, he takes a full half hour to pack his food into his camo backpack. He takes out a box of macaroni, sets it down, swaps it for canned peas, puts them in, takes them out, trades a loaf of bread. I'm trying not to count, even let on I'm watching, though maybe that's what he wants, to be counted, noticed. Now everything's out, spread across 3 chairs and a table, bread, fresh carrots, 2 cans of chicken stew. Is there a problem? I'm smiling, trying hard not to condescend. How about some fresh raspberries? I hold them out to him as he dives for the door, eyes panicky. I got a train to catch. I figure that's the last I'll see of him, but then he's back, defiant, summoning all his will to pack his food in a box, all his courage to carry it away. And then that was a poem from a period of time I spent living in Oak Park when I first encountered, no, actually, I think I encountered Traveling Mollies when I was living in Chicago, but I moved to Oak Park. And this is called October. This was published in After Hours. This round month of empty mouths and still no snow. In the plucked garden, a rabbit wanders in circles, looks for the dog who lived here once. A month to try on old clothes before settling for basic black and white. On the parkway, maples in red stocking caps, gaunt elms, naked but for moth-chewed argyle socks, oaks in ragged brown overcoats, and ginkgos shaking off yellow sweaters, covering lawns in the dog-eared lost poems of trees. I don't know how I'm doing with time here. How am I doing with time? Any?
Al?
Hmm?
I haven't
Nobody's
been keeping track, sorry.
I was going to start a timer too. All right, well, I will read one more from the book. And it's called Shortcut. I wrote it, I was at a writing workshop in the Sierra Nevada, and Dean Young was one of the very quotable teachers. So I dedicated it to Dean, who died in 2022. Shortcut. Begin by taking the road marked no through traffic, says the golden-haired boy, bucket of deck stain in one hand, dripping paintbrush in the other. Though more hilly, it is the quickest way to get from here to there, especially if you don't have a car. Walk past the signs that say private, keep out, no trespassing. The one that says, flying trapeze lessons this way. Didn't you say you're in a hurry? Keep walking. You'll come to a sign with a bent black arrow slashed by a thinner line, meaning no left turn. Turn left. Here, put these stale bread crusts in your pockets. You may need them. Ignore the barking dog, the sign that says road ending. Crawl under the pig iron gate. This is when not having a car comes in handy. Continue downhill. You're almost there now. Across the slippery rocks, keep your shoes on and keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Thank you.
Patty, thank you. Can you tell us again the name of the book and where it can be found?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Nina. It's called Running Wild. Yep, I'm not showing it to you. Running Wild. It's published by Finishing Line Press. You can get it from Finishing Line Press or from bookshop.org. And there's a couple places in Chicago, but those would be the easiest places if you're not in Chicago.
Well, thank you very much. And I wish we could tarry with everyone in this mic, but that was and now I get to introduce my co-host of 22 years, at least by last count, Al DeGenova. He's an award-winning poet, publisher of After Hours magazine, teacher, as well as the executive director of Right On in Door County, Wisconsin. He's the author of 5 books of poetry and 2 chapbooks. His most recent book, Human Nature, Poems of Witness, was published by Kelsey Books in January 2024. It has is it a foreword by Haki Matabuti, which really sets off the poems beautifully in the context that, as you listen, is really meaningful. And it's a great entree. He is the founder of After Hours, as I mentioned, Press, and co-editor of After Hours magazine. It's a journal of Chicago writing and art that launched in June of 2000. And has done any number of readings around Chicago, and also does the Mary Blinn Prize, and is one of the people that has made as much of a mark in his poetry as he has in the poetry community. One thing he didn't mention is that he is also a musician, a sax player, and you can hear the musicality of his poetry, and we'll hear it now. Al?
Okay, well, thank you, Nina, for that lovely introduction. You're a good friend, and we've been doing this a long time, so I'm really glad to be able to read a bit from this book, and I'll hold it up a little. And sometimes, when you do stuff on Zoom, it kind of turns things inside out and backwards and blurry. But anyway, I put the link in the chat. Human Nature, and it has the subheading Poems of Witness. So this is a collection of, somebody called it kind of baby boomer disillusionment, and I think that's probably a good way to characterize the poems in this book. So there's a number of poems in here about growing up in the racist world that Chicago was and is. This first poem, sometimes when I read it out of an urban setting, people don't realize what I'm talking about, but Haki got it pretty quickly. It didn't take more than talking about a knee on somebody's neck. But this poem is the title poem. It's called Human Nature. Some will follow the faint trail of blood through the fresh snows, searching for the story. Some will pay a man with a pickup truck to remove the carcass. The deer that ran, a single bullet in its belly, to die under a pine tree in my woods. Coyotes in the night mutilate the hindquarters, scrape out with sharp-clawed paws warm organs and entrails. Crows peck and pull fur and skin down to long white ribs. The pool of red and purple, the lifeless eyes of the untouched face. No one blames the coyote or crow for their hunger, nor the hunter thinking he missed, who hoped to share venison with his family. Some, though, without hunger, would kneel on the dying neck, draw a handgun and shoot 15 more holes into the hide, blaming the beautiful doe for something like running. Some would watch this quietly, some would cry out, and some would walk away to let nature take its course. And thank you. This next one talks about kind of a historic moment in American history, and one of the largest lynchings that happened in America, in New Orleans in the 1890s, was of Italian immigrants. So since I knew my grandparents and they were all Italian immigrants, I'll read this for you. It's called Fried Peppers. Italians need not apply in this country where the government census couldn't decide what color we were, where New Orleans lynched us historically, where we became cannon fodder in a Second World War. Soon, out of the hot Southern Italian sun, we got whiter, assimilating that color like a new language. But at home, my grandparents used old country words, melanzana, or in Chicago Italian slang, tutsun, words that sounded just like the N-word, because we weren't digging ditches or pushing bricks in wheelbarrows anymore. We were driving trucks and swinging big Teamster sticks. I heard those words describing neighborhoods where my young grandparents had lived, those once Italian Chicago ghettos. But my mother didn't allow those words, not from her children, not after her own school days would soak through bag lunches of fried pepper and egg sandwiches, not after WAP, Guinea, Dago labels. Her revulsion of syntax, a small revolution. Recognition, not enough, not yet, so much deeper than skin. We wipe our greasy fingers, one cleansing revolution at a time. I thought this poem would go away, but it seems like our political situation isn't going to change anytime soon. So the opening poem, or one of the opening poems of the book, is actually called Bearing Witness, and I think that's something we all have to do, is bear witness to the life that we live. So this one is called We Thought We Could. I'll hold the umbrella, your arm in mine. We'll walk through the looking glass, through the ink-filled rain, through what's left of our meaningful dream, peer back at our scribbled vanity. We hide under desks and behind our tailored cloak of connectedness and precious handmade chapbooks. It's all too much lettuce. Our reality sandwiches are rubber playthings, those old and dry manifestos. The barren, poison-tipped bullets of privilege are forged of synthesized metals. Where's blind Cupid's golden bow? Gone like so many mythic dreams, ended. The alarm clock buzzing, our awakening out of reach. We put the pillows over our heads with easy posts and angered shares, outstretched fingers that hope and fail to touch more than this wasted, bombed out Camelot. Transform malaise, our bourgeois curse, squeeze wine from intoxicating poems, exalted, taste the prophets of jazz, of rock and roll, of benevolent science, their golden ruled breaths, and know again the black and white of sin's responsibility. The alarmed alarm shakes the yes we can dream that was America. No poetry to this dark morning, no trust for a rising sun. I've nothing to offer but my own confusion, caught between the singing Buddha and the hot smoking barrel of the dark dynamo, menacing in the machinery of the night. So this one gets a little bit into kind of personal witness and aging, I guess, getting older and thinking about retiring. A day's work. He chews a black Italian cheroot, tight in his determined bite. A stiff-legged limp doesn't slow his steady stride down the alley, across Grand Avenue, across the tracks to a small patch of park, to the west-facing bench where he sits, sometimes turned away from the spray of the fountain, and sits, a hand on each knee, back straight, no slouch. I imagine he listens to the falling water, this seeming ancient pond, and hears the city's syncopation of hard clinging crossing gate bells, the rumble of speeding commuter trains. I do not yet know this kind of work. He stares where there are no frogs jumping in. How long he labors inside this silence. So much living in this sitting, remembering, like lighting his cigar in the wind, match after match after match. This one is a little more fun than others. This one is called. There's a publication in Australia that really likes me. They keep publishing my poems. Anyway, this was first published in an Australian anthology, which is called Truth Serum Press. Anyway, this is called God Might Be a Potato. How many lies to disguise the true answer? What does it matter? I never learned to pray, not from nuns with their big sticks and belts of beads. At funerals for in-law aunts, my lips move to the Lord's Prayer like mumbling, excuse me, to push through a line of strangers. Nor from Jesuits with their black blazers covered in cigarette ash and arrogance, who drown me in pages of Camus. In a primitive cabin built into a bluff, spiders and mice crisscross trails of ciphered verses across a rough wood table. Is it prayer without God? Condemnation? Accused of telling truth, facing eternal fires for praying with pagan insects at sunset? Or the cold back of disgust for saying, I don't really care that much to celebrate the company's up year with a rare bottle of Opus One. There is no music at that party. Fire me or send me to the guillotine. I don't care, really. God might be a potato. Eat them baked or raw, what does it matter? As long as we dance like so many Zorbas, hand in hand, when our dreams and stone walls fall into the indigo sea. So I'm going to do one more to end my section of tonight's feature. It's called Slant Facts. I pull my soul up close to the skin, let it get some sun, or cool in the lake breeze, feel nightfall smooth as a good bourbon. Too much? Better in third person. He pulls his soul up close to the skin so it smells like sweat and splitting logs and the smoke of a good wood fire up close to the skin where the sun bleaches the hair on his soul's wrists white. It's not my heart on a wool sleeve. This is naked skin, but under the flush, under the beard, under the wrinkles of time, under tobacco stains, under the spittle of words, and in the smell of pencil shavings. I write this in first person, so you know it is me, even when the facts are slant. Thank you. Thank you. It's a privilege to be reading with this group of really great poets tonight. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we don't get to shine very often when we're hosts, but it's so nice to be able to hear you right here. And especially with this most recent work. It's just really powerful stuff.
Thanks so much.
So you're going to be introducing Pam Miller, right?
Yes, that's right. I did space out just a touch there, gathering my thoughts again. Next up on our quadruple header feature this month is Pamela Miller. I've known Pam a long time, and I think she remembers that when I was editor of the OIA Review many years ago, we published one of her poems in the OIA Review. Still remember that. But since I've had the privilege to publish many of Pam's poems in After Hours. So Pamela Miller's fifth collection of poems, How to Do the Greased Wombat Slide, was published in May by Unsolicited Press. Her other books include Miss Unthinkable and Recipe for Disaster, both from Mayapple Press, and the visual poetry chapbook, Mr. Mischief, forthcoming from Dancing Girl Press. Her work has appeared in Rhino, New Poetry from the Midwest, Nix's Mate Review, Blaze Vox, Autolist, Word for Word, Book of Matches, Shoe Poetry, After Hours, and many other journals and anthologies. Pam is one of the most prolific writers I know, so everyone welcome her tonight. Pam Miller.
Thank you. Well, it is so so great to be reading at Molly's again, even though, like the other readers tonight, I am a repeat offender, so I really appreciate getting to read again. Like the man said, my book is How to Do the Greased Wombat Slide from Unsolicited Press. And when I do readings like this, I always feel that it behooves me to start out by addressing the question of, okay, how exactly do you do the Greased Wombat Slide, just in case anyone is wondering about that. So let me take this cough drop out of my mouth. Sliding around. How to do the Greased Wombat Slide. Ladies and gentlemen, here's how the dance goes. The acrobats come in through this door. The zealots come in through that door. A greased wombat slides down a pole and everybody chases after him. Desire sweeps in through this door. The debutantes mince in through that door. A greased wombat slides down a pole and their skirts burst into flames. The meek march in through this door. The earth rolls in through that door. A greased wombat slides down a pole and proclaims himself grand usurper. Our best selves waltz in through this door. Our worst selves slink in through that door. A greased wombat slides down a pole and the whole game's up for grabs. The four horsemen gallop through this door. Armageddon thunders in through that door. That goddamn wombat slides down the pole, and even you won't be able to stop him. Earbuds are falling out. Let's see. Well, Patty requested a mistranslation poem. So This is mistranslated from the Polish poet Wisława Szymborska. I'm sure I am mispronouncing that, so apologies. But it's called This Poem Is Not For You. Murmur, don't caterwaul. Waltz, don't whine. Your mouth is too static to be a church window, and your pills can't be found in any proper druggie's dossier. You can't get euthanasia from just any old oddball podiatrist, or by racing your dreary Stutz Bearcat through the rickety gates of wishful thinking. Why must you always protest Zeus's ruminations? For crocodile's sake, stop dredging up your convenient personal apocalypse. I'm delighted to tell you for the last awful time, you're wearing your two-piece penis all wrong. Eat a beakful of botanicals, then get thee to Siberia. This poem is not for you, my jazzless swain, because it makes no easy sense. And, excuse me, this next poem came from a prompt, which was to take the names of paint colors and write poems inspired by them, which is admittedly a pretty silly prompt, but of course I had to try it. So this is poems from 3 Sherwin-Williams paint colors. The first color is Bamboo Shoot. 6:00 howling a.m., and we're revving up our nerves' black gears as we stromp through the mushy jungle in our pixelated wingtip shoes to shoot the sadistic bamboo right in its corona of fangs, our rickety bazookas just barely held together with goo. The sun is a lichenous splotch on the sky, and the oldest of us is 15. We're the doomed pediatric battalion of Ankles, Ohio, about to disappear into quicksand's shifty lips, yawping a lugubrious battle cry, our voices too vast for our heads. And the second color is Dard Hunter Green. Jan Baudelaire once explained to me who Dard Hunter was, but I can't remember it now what he said. Dard Hunter Green. The middle of gangly May, and we're belly crawling through the screeching forest corridors of sodden fronds, our miniature jetpacks churring, our combat boots beribboned with earthworms, to hunt the inexplicable dard that spits noxious green gunk like a chlorophyll cobra. But are we tremblers? Spiff spaff. We're the mad-beard commando furiosos, ornery as oak gall pie, our Teflon chests relentless, our rifles bristling with chutzpah. Oh, we're Cali-armed pinwheels of destruction, blasting death's teeth out one by one. And the third color is Belvedere Cream. London in the crevice of 1943, and we're sidewinding like spirochetes down espionage's alleys, an inch of blood a splosh in our brogans, to cream that turncoat Belvedere, that pianist of pain they call Hitler's grater, before he strangles us with poison gloves. First we'll sizzle his molars till they pop. Then we'll shove him in the avalanche machine. But he slips through our flaccid grasp every time, his fake skin crumbling in our hands. We're the muck-it-up, bungle-thumbs failure brigade, useless like paint that's allergic to walls, forever unbuttoning humiliation's blouse beneath the sky full of snickering stars. My set list here. Where is that dawn poem? There are a lot of poems about poetry in the book. So this one is Going Out to Lunch with Emily Dickinson. Why am I not ready to meet her? She's traveled such a long way to get here, careening like a comet down the turnpike of the dead. Now she's waiting for me in the hallway, in her ragged flesh, an unruly odor of lilacs rampaging through the house. She speaks the way she wrote, her phrases marbled with tremulous dashes. I know a tea room, slantways to the stars, she tells me. Why am I so terrified of her? Is it because her Big Bang poems make mine look like scraps of snotty Kleenex? Or that she might try to drag me back where she came from, gripping my wrists so tightly my fingernails pop off? I still have some things to finish up, I splutter like a talking fish. She just nods her translucent head, patient as Whistler's mother. It was not death, for I stood up, and all the dead lie down, she reminds me. Let's see, I'm looking at the clock. Let's see. I'll read one more. This is, can't find anything in here. This is an erasure poem, and the text that I erased a lot of stuff from to get this was the official studio biography of actor Henry Fonda. So this is a very, very unofficial Henry Fonda erasure biography. Henry Fonda's hat lulled his laurels. The stern actor discovered the republic of aristocratic hands. Fonda was a newspaper. Born grand, Henry attended the University of Becoming. The jobs he held included shooter, telephone, and the whole course of his life. He was persuaded to join the movement of well-known technical details. He expanded 150 sizes. Fonda attacked General Tallulah Bankhead, but the audience never appeared. He was signed for the role of a wayward fly. He reasoned with a long, hot bombshell. Exceedingly popular with office boys, Fonda refused wooden clothes. My husband is having hysterics in the other room. Richie, you've heard this before. Fonda is thick and blue. Among his favorites, gardenia pudding and chocolate pictures. Favorite color, arguing. He is grateful to British wigs and his broken daughter and son. When the children grow up, they will destroy Rhode Island. 10% of Fonda is my darling. Thanks very much. The book is, I can't display it here, How to Do the Grease Wombat Slide. If anyone's interested, it's available at unsolicitedpress.com. Thanks.
Pam, that was wonderful and full of all the wonderful qualities we expect from you. No respect for the limits of language or decorum. You know, there's not enough humor in poetry, but thank you for bringing an almost uninterrupted set of it, which, well, enough said. I am now really excited to be introducing Brenda Cardenas, a friend of mine for many years, from the days when she was living in Chicago. We were two single women rambling through the city. And she has gone on to have such a rich creative and life, and has made a difference in so many young writers' lives, many of whom are now teaching here, there, and everywhere. Her most recent book is Trace on Red Hen Press. It was the winner of the 2023 Society of, oh no, this was separate. Society of Midland Authors Award for Poetry, and silver winner of Forward Review's Indie Poetry Prize. Also the author of Boomerang and Bilingual Press, and 3 chapbooks. She also co-edited Resist Much, Obey Little, inaugural poems to the resistance, and way back when, Between the Heart and the Land, Latina poets in the Midwest. That was probably about 20 years ago. Her poems and essays have appeared or are forthcoming in many literary journals and anthologies. Cardenas has also enjoyed collaborating with musicians, composers, visual artists, and choreographers. And in 2023, her poem, Para los Tintunteros, was set to choral music by Daniel Afonso, was published by Hal Leonard Music, which is like music to my ears, and in 2024 performed by the National Concert Chorus at Carnegie Hall. Imagine that, the places that we will go. Cardenas has served as Milwaukee's Poet Laureate and is Professor Emerita of English at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Brenda, let's hear it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nina, and Al, and everybody. It's really hard to follow all of you because you were just great. What a great reading. What a wonderful set from each of the features, and great poems through the entire open mic. So I feel privileged to join you. I'm going to read a combination of some poems from Trace that's from last year, and then some newer poems. And I'm going to start with a newer one that just got picked up at Prairie Schooner. And this is called Lineage. And it's Para la bisabuela I never knew, or for the great-grandmother I never knew. And there's one expression in the poem, la Adelitas bandolera. The Adelitas were the women soldiers that fought during the Mexican Revolutionary War, of course, on the Mexican side. And the bandolera, of course, are the bullets that they wore across their chests. Lineage. Our lineage, 8 burros fencing a single aguacate tree in the middle of an open field. This is where you kneel, hide behind the blinking eyes, soft bellies of a breathing shield, tails smacking at buzz-stung air. Torches burn barns to the ground behind you, daughters grasping both your hands, youngest slung across your breast like La Adelita's bandolera, all because you packed a lunch, tied a sprig of mint in your son's hat. They said he was feeding the wrong side, so they bound his hands and marched him blindfolded 3 days to the next village, where a noose wreathed his neck, feet planted like stones on a crate. What if you hadn't burst in, breathless and begging just before they kicked it out from under him? If you hadn't dragged his sun-beaten body to priests who soaked rags and rang drops of water on clay lips? If he hadn't boarded the train that hauled him north with the woman who housed seeds that would sprout ears perked for each other's screaming when she pushed all of us into this singed world with no ring of stubborn creatures to shield us. So that's that. And then I'm going to read some poems. I'm going to read a couple of poems, some personal poems, actually. And a couple of them are sort of reflect my my rebellious youth. At least this one does. I often wonder how my mother didn't kill me. And this is called This Is Why. This poem was, I was really happy that Padraig Otuma chose it for the On Being podcast that he does, the Poetry Unbound. And he read it so beautifully. I wish I could read it as well as he did. This is why. At dusk, we pulled and shoved a picnic table beneath cousin's bedroom window, then yawned a lot as we sat on the couch with her dad pretending to nod off to the evening news. I almost said it's been a long day, but realized that would be too much 17-year-old going on 50 for Uncle to believe. We snuck off to bed where we changed into patched Levi's, marijuana pickers, local number 13 t-shirts, and earth shoes. I slid out the window first, almost toppling the picnic table with my clumsy landing, cousin behind me already laughing, to the park for our weekly search, crossing fingers that someone had dropped their bag of weed or flicked their fat joint when cops circled for the second time. Of course, we never found the goods lying in the grass. But we found friends with pockets full of other secrets that we hid beneath our tongues until they melted. Later, when adults ask, why? Why would you be so reckless? I describe the ease of pulling myself back up to the window ledge, gently tumbling into bed, pulling the blanket up to my chin as a bluster rustled dry leaves in the sill. I explain how I watched 3 pairs of orange and pink-tinged maple leaves swirl to my feet, how they unwrinkled themselves, stood up tall, one in each couple bowing before they raised their hands, touched fingertips, and began to waltz to Tchaikovsky, tangerine skirts twirling into yellow. How elegant the soiree I witnessed at my feet. Why would you miss that? I ask. So that was that bout of life. And then this poem is another new poem called Tulips for Debbie. Because her lipstick was tulip red, her wit early and blasphemous, standing in the snow without a coat, shouting spring to the razor wind, we decided tulip was the flower she would be. And we would have plunged into a pool of red petals just to taste her luminous words, hear the silky ribbon of her voice, try on her black beret. We declared our quieter friend a violet because we didn't yet see the oak tree in her insistent listening. My freckled face an apple blossom with its easy free fall from the branch. Together, we were a rambunctious garden. Wherever the seeds scattered, we sprouted, pink next to orange, next to yellow, next to plush purple. I would cultivate them all again. But every season when the tulips blast their trumpets to the sun, I watch her rise from her restless bed, tiptoe to the dresser drawer, slide it open without a creak, lift the pistol to her head. And now I'm going to read some stuff that's lighter because that was heavy. Okay, so I'm going to get us to middle age, right? I have a bunch of poems in the last section of this book on becoming middle-aged. And they are sort of, they're about that, but they also are coming out of dream. So they're originate in dreams. And this one's called Middle-Aged Dreams. So that old lover, the one I didn't remember when I ran into him at a book fair 10 years after we ate strawberries off each other's skin in a steamy tent erected on the sandy bank of a river. The one who approached me all smiles as if we had eaten those strawberries yesterday, while I cast blank eyes because I thought he might be the long-lost friend I had dropped acid with in a house where fish swam around fork and spoon, dipped in and out of a coffee cup, because you know all aquariums are tables set for breakfast. Not that one, but the one who left me driveling in puddles while he drifted across country to join a Buddhist monastery. Yes, that old lover shows up at 4 a.m. I've already married him twice, the second wedding only months before, and now he's leaving me again. I'm standing in a puddle that floods the valley, no, the truck route. Screw all this pastoral shit and admit it, you live on a truck route. About to marry a man I've never seen in my life, nor whose fruit I'd ever want to lick. When I try to shake out the cobwebs and dry my feet on fresh sheets, I tell husband about it, but all he can say is, "Where was I? You mean I wasn't even present on the truck route?" And the dog purr growls, which means she must go out. And then the poem that follows that one is called Subtraction and Addition. A night minus husband equals deep sleep, where you dream about husband doing things he would never do. Leave you in a corner so he can party with celebrities on a barge out to sea. Meanwhile, you've accumulated a third brother who is aware of your and his departed sibling, but won't utter aloud that family minus brother equals hole in the bottom of the ship. He laughs when you ask him to paddle you to husband, who holds a glass of bourbon up to the moon and howls while spinning like Michael Jackson, something husband would never do. You minus words equals empty space equals panic, stuck screen, gunked vocal cords. Yes, a woman can shoot blanks, turn into a red balloon that loudly farts its way into a thicket of shame. Why you, mute bubble? You've always been smitten with the mutable. Clownfish, chameleon, seahorse, selkie, ice cube. You should be the trumpeter that calls them all home. So those are some of my middle age poems. And there's one I'm going to read you now, one that's a little bit longer one. That I just have to read because I just retired in May from 35 years of teaching. And while I loved my students, and I know I was privileged to have had that position and have worked with such brilliant and amazing people. One gets tired of carrying their work home with them all the time. So this is called shipping and receiving. Sick of fumbling with lunch sack, purse, umbrella, mask, keys, and the 2-ton backpack overflowing with unread essays, laptop discussion posts, poems caught in the jammed zipper, I slam it all down on the kitchen table and declare to the dog that I quit. I will never again work anywhere that sends me home to work even harder all weekend long. End of story. Period. Punto. Ya. I decide to shift careers, go into shipping and receiving when I find my feet in thick-soled boots on a cement floor, pencil behind my ear, clipboard in hand, colossal rolls of packing tape, and boxes large as coffins, small as keys. When I raise my hand above my head, semi-trucks turn on their engines, roll into formation. My clipboard clamps one end of a scroll that drops past my feet, trails me around the warehouse like a tail. And so I ship. Every essay current and future students will write, paper clips caught in their corners, to a grading factory in Antarctica where workers are hungry for words. My email and all social media accounts with their humble bragging to the ether from whence they came. Parking tickets, alarm clocks, blue light and dry eye, long lines and loud commercials to the island of irritation. Foothills of snow at every crosswalk to Tampa, Dallas, and Orange County, specially packaged with a dozen stalactite icicles to hang from their metal awnings. Light pollution to the darkest corners of hell. Air pollution back to the factories that produced it, estimated arrival well after third shift has bust home. Our mothers' arthritic knees, swollen ankles, and bulging discs on shooting stars to Pluto, where pain's roots shrivel in the dark, never to bud. I send cancer to its crabby constellation, where cells heal in each other's light. Politicians to the world's largest library, where books finally shut their fat mouths. Macroaggressions, microaggressions, all our isms I zap back 2 million years so we can choose to evolve without them. Stop and frisk, billy clubs, chokeholds, bullet holes, knees on necks, to a police state that lives only in our history books. Hunger to pastures turned gardens, row upon row of corn, beans, squash, carrots, potatoes, onions, tomatoes, lettuce, let there be lettuce. Special delivery, the right wing to Alcatraz, where they must read and recite critical race theory while bowing to unions who've rescued them from 12-hour shifts. All pandemics and their anti-vaxxers on an Elon Musk spaceship to a distant zombie galaxy about to be devoured by its starved cannibal neighbor. The itch I cannot reach to breeding mosquitoes so they can tear open red bumps in the middles of their own backs. I consider shipping the mosquitoes as well. But then remember, dragonflies, bats, birds, fish, frogs, turtles, and instead order a crate of calamine lotion. This I will receive, along with a black and white dog named Maya, and the human I love who walks her in healthy forests awash with birds, bear, fox, deer, berries, moss, and mushroom spores. A comfortable bed, books, blankets for all, students who whisper their poems in my ears, a cup of cinnamon tea, a mug of Belgian beer. Butternut squash, sage, basil, ajo, clove, canela, cominos, tamales, tomate, sopa de tortilla, sopa de papa, many pachangas, muchos mariachis. Every instrument and its music, tiny sculptures blown together by wind, fresh water, endangered languages and species in multiple shipments. All those killed for their color, their culture, religion, poverty, for the one they love. The 81 women murdered by men in 28 days, all of them alive again. Con mis tías y tíos, abuelos y primos, mi papá y hermanito, a flatbed full of cempasúchil to light their way. Visits from ancestors, visits from stars. And I'm going to end on two new poems. The first of which is going to be in Prairie Schooner, and then the last poem was just published on Swim Every Day. So this one is called Bondage. I whistle as I wrestle my inner workhorse to the dirt, turn her head in the direction of blue herons and rain-wet phantoms of fog hovering above the pond. Look, I command, linger in this decomposing day. When she tries to plant her hooves, heave her weight on thick flanks, bony knees, and flee, I tie her to the lightning cracked tree, the one still coughing ashes. No more musts, I say, stroke her mane. Rest will be her bondage until her eyes hold sackfuls of stars and never a mule escapes through her neigh. Never a devil hoists himself on her back again. Now I can barely hear the hurt in her whinny. It's but a distant bell. And the last poem is called Mercy. It's the one that was in Swim. It goes like this. Uncorset my fat suit and bury me in a chorus of strawberries, a forest haunted by cicada suits left clinging to toadstools and stones. Let bear paws mix me in a handful of honey should bees still swarm this noxious earth. Give wolves license to muddle me like a sugary cocktail or effusive stew. No box, I beg, you to strip me of this red nose, yellow-collared clown suit and kayak me out to the aquamarine cemetery where fall cell phones and lighters, water shoes and dimes, earrings and locked chests full of secrets. Let my spent shell sup like a suckerfish on this dumpster and clean its sullied floor. Have mercy on the home we have poisoned, blue body we have boiled, like the soup we are destined to become. Have mercy and add a bit of mint before you wrap me in clean linen if you must. Do not fasten my shroud, but let it flutter in the wind's whistle that carries me to the velvet ear of a dog. Thank you very much. Thank you. Gracias.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. That was amazing.
That was beautiful.
Thank
Brenda,
you. What was yours, Al? Sorry, Nina.
That's okay. It's been so wonderful to hear everyone in the open mic, but our features, Patty McMillen, Al DeGenova, Pam Miller, Brenda Cardenas. Their books are in the chat and where you can get them. If each of you wouldn't mind just repeating again the title of your book and the publisher.
Patty, you read first. You can go first.
Running Wild from Finishing Line Press in Georgetown, Kentucky.
Al.
Human Nature from Kelsey Books. Albert DeGenova.
Excuse me. How to do the Greased Wombat Slide, Unsolicited Press, Portland, Oregon.
And Brenda.
You're muted, Brenda.
Minus Trace from Red Hen Press out in Pasadena. That's it,
That's
2023.
an amazing cover too, by the way.
And that's my husband's artwork.
Thank you both so
Yeah,
much.
Roberto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Roberto's art.
One more time, I want to remind you that next month on, I think it's August 11th, we'll have Cornelius Eady and Robin Messing. And then the following month, which is going to be September 9th, I think, we're going to have Michael Anania and Cynthia Mannix. So we've really got some good stuff to look forward to, and hope we will see you again. Al?
Well, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and the open mic was wonderful. Hope everyone will come again. It's hard with this virtual thing that we only get to pick 10 people for the open mic, but thank you all for being here, and thanks to the folks out in YouTube land for hanging around and watching the reading, and we'll see you all next month. It never stops. The months keep coming. Good night, everybody.